The next item of business is adjacent to 1736 Niles Avenue, and it's a request for a conditional use permit to install a wireless telecommunication facility within a residential zoning district on a joint utility pole in the public right-of-way for sections 12220 and 1284-160 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. Staff report, please. You can just hold a moment, Matt. I know there's a lot of discussion behind you. And if you, it might be necessary to close the door.
That's Rose. That's Rose.
We all know who it is.
She's got complaint about you too.
Through the chair, before we get started, I'm sorry. You know what? I just have a question. Maybe I should ask the city attorney as far as conflict of interest. Although I live very close to this particular item, I think I'm, more than 500 feet. I haven't taken a tape measure out, to be honest with you, but pardon me?
Did you receive a notice in the mail?
Not that I am aware
Did
of.
you receive the public notice of the item in the mail?
Not that I'm aware of it. That doesn't mean that it didn't come through my household and I didn't see it. I think I'm probably more than 500 feet away. I just wanted to be sure.
Staff is actually going through and checking at this time, just to verify
Great.
that.
Which project site were you
matter of
concerned
public
about?
record. Pardon me?
Which project site? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Oh,
beginning.
it's the one on Niles.
Niles? Okay.
1736 Niles. Well, maybe for the purpose while we're
It's
checking.
1901 Donner. I mean, it's no big secret.
You're more than 500 feet.
That's what I'm thinking, but I just want to make sure.
Each lot is 50
Our real
feet. You're more
estate
than 10 houses away.
agent indicated.
Oh, no.
As you-
Fellow
as the
commissioner.
crow
While they're
flies.
checking, just to, for the purpose of,
You're more than 10 houses away,
it
right?
might be good to recuse yourself until you have.
I think I'm okay. I just want to make
You're
sure.
more than 10 houses away, right?
Depends how the crow flies. I should be okay, right?
So the notice only goes out to 300 feet. We cannot verify that
300
you are
feet.
not in the zone. Therefore, in abundance of caution, I would recommend that you step down and
will
recuse yourself for the
accept
item.
that recommendation then.
What's that?
I'll accept that recommendation. That'd be a smart thing to do.
Staff report, please.
Thank you. As stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit to construct a new wireless facility within a residential zoning district. The wireless facility is proposed to be attached to an existing public utility pole adjacent to 1736 Niles Avenue within the public right-of-way. The utility pole would be expanded by 7 feet to accommodate the new wireless facility. Specifically, 3 antennas would be installed on top of that new 7-foot wood riser and would be enclosed by a radome. Therefore, those antennas would not be visible from street view. Additionally, 4 related equipment cabinets will be installed on the pole itself. The overall height of the pole would be 49 feet 11 inches, which is 1 inch shorter than our municipal code requirement. The Architectural Review Committee reviewed this project at the November 12th meeting, and at that meeting, one of the committee members requested that the full Planning Commission review and discuss the level of stealthing proposed. In this case, staff does find that the proposal is consistent with the stealth requirement, as the radome will screen the antennas from public view, and all equipment will be painted to match the existing utility pole. Additionally, the Architectural Review Committee also requested that modifications be made to the existing signage to ensure that the public could read the contact number from street view in case of an emergency. The applicant did submit revised plans with proposed signage, and that can be found on pages T3 and A3 within your plan set. However, staff did find that the proposed signage with the new contact information was a bit too large and is not recommending approval of that specific sign. We have included a revised sign, which is included as Exhibit F, and that sign would have dimensions of 7.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall with the contact number. T-Mobile is also in agreement with this revised sign. Staff did receive one comment from a concerned neighbor, and he really had concerns regarding health and safety issues. Staff responded that the applicant submitted the required radio frequency report, and that radio frequency report stated that the ground level exposure would be 0.57% of the public exposure limit. And because that proposal complies with the standard for public exposure, the city is unable to look into any health-related issues due to strict federal regulations. It is also important to note that earlier this month, on December 2nd, construction began at the site without use permit approval or building permit approval. Construction was stopped, however, that 7-foot riser was installed. The 7-foot riser currently right now is not matching the color of the existing utility pole, but staff has added a condition of approval requiring that 7-foot riser be painted to match the color of the existing utility pole. With that, overall staff is supportive of the proposal and recommends approval of use permit 09-025 based on findings of fact 1 through 6 and conditions of approval 1 through 13. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Marshall?
Are there any other utility pole antennas in residential neighborhoods around town?
I am unaware of any other utility poles. I believe this would be the first one for the city of San Bruno.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Yeah, I'm the one who brought this comment about us taking a look at the stealthing of this proposed antenna. It's the first that I know of that's going to sit on top of a phone pole exposed to the elements, and we've been charged with stealthing these things and hiding these things, and I personally don't feel that this sufficiently stealths the antenna, the antenna. Also, by doing this, we open up a precedent for having these things popping up on power poles all over the neighborhood. So I bring that forward for you guys to discuss, because I'm really not comfortable with this one at all.
Any other comments from commissioners?
You hear the report first? So I'll have some more comments after we did.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. The applicant can please step forward and give us a detailed description of your project, please. Also state your name for our record.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. My name is Misako Hill. I represent T-Mobile West Corporation, located at 1855 Gateway Boulevard, 9th floor, Concord, California. I've been working in the wireless industry for about 8 years. I would like to thank Laura Russell, Lisa Costa-Sanders, and Matt Newbaumer for working with me on these projects. I'm here tonight to ask approval for the proposed facilities on Niles and Park Avenue. I want to make 3 important points regarding the proposed facilities. The first point is that currently in the residential neighborhoods of San Bruno surrounding the proposed facilities, T-Mobile's radio frequency engineers have identified a significant gap in coverage. The identification of the coverage gap is based on a rigorous scientific process. The process includes analyzing T-Mobile's network performance data. T-Mobile
Excuse me, through the chair. Could you slow down just a little bit and maybe get a little closer to the mic?
Sure.
I'm trying to understand you, but I'm not doing too well.
The first point is that currently in the residential neighborhoods of San Bruno, surrounding the proposed facilities on Niles and Park Avenues, T-Mobile's radio frequency engineers have identified a significant gap in coverage. The identification of the coverage gap is based on a rigorous scientific process. This process includes analyzing T-Mobile's network performance data. T-Mobile customers in this area of San Bruno have no phone service inside their houses and limited in-vehicle service. It should be noted that an increasing number of residences are abandoning landlines. Almost 9% of households in California are cell phone-only households. The proposed facility is intended to meet this increased demand for service. The second point is that as the need for quality wireless phone service in residential neighborhoods increases, T-Mobile is sensitive to the needs of each community and works to reduce the visual impact of a new facility on the local area. T-Mobile tries to co-locate on existing structures whenever possible. The proposed cell site will not entail the installation of a new pole structure. An existing joint...
Wait, could you say, can you speak slightly louder and do the last sentence? I'm getting dropouts. It's like a cell phone connection that's not working.
The proposed cell site will not entail the installation of a new pole structure. an existing, is this working?
Yeah. I think it might be the microphone issue. I don't think it's you,
Okay.
actually. It might be a microphone piece because I see you're making every effort and
Yeah.
you're enunciating, but the louder you speak, the more we're getting.
Okay.
So,
An existing joint utility pole in the public right-of-way will be used, utilizing the smallest equipment available to provide service to the coverage gap. All of the equipment will be located on the pole and no equipment will be installed on the ground. And my last point is that more and more 911 calls are being placed on wireless networks. Reports have shown that 224,000 emergency 911 calls are made from wireless phones each day. T-Mobile is mandated by the FCC to install enhanced 911 systems in all of their wireless facilities that allow the approximate location of the distressed caller to be located. T-Mobile must place enough facilities throughout communities to ensure a distressed caller's wireless phone has adequate signal available to make an emergency call, stay connected with the 911 operator, and be found by emergency service personnel. I respectfully request that you approve the proposed projects. I'm happy to answer any questions that you or staff may have. I'm also joined tonight by T-Mobile's RF engineer, Rogelio Legal, who will be able to answer any questions you have regarding T-Mobile's wireless network, and Mr. Bill Hammett with Hammett and Edison, who will be able to answer any questions you have regarding the RF report.
thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant from
Through the
Commissioner?
chair.
Commissioner Marshall?
First, are you one of the ones on the committee to pick the location or why it was chosen, or just?
Yeah, I work with the engineer.
Then I'm sure you're gonna speak on the next one too, so I'm gonna kind of direct my questions to both of them, even though we're talking about the one of them. Is that okay?
Through the chair?
I want to make sure with.
We can certainly.
I said, since he's talking about both projects, I mean, can I ask vague questions about both projects? I mean, or do we have to ask questions on the next? Not, well, if I say too much, just tell me to stop. How's that? Okay.
We should,
Well,
if the questions pertain to both applications, you could answer them
Okay.
as they pertain to this application, and you probably just won't have to ask the
Okay.
question again next time.
Okay, well, what bothers me most about these two projects, we've approved many cell sites here, and I don't think we've said no to any of them. But these are both in residential spots with parks right nearby that could hide them better. There's tall trees in the parks, and you can stealth them a lot better in these parks. There are city facilities nearby. On the Niles, you have San Bruno Avenue, you have San Bruno Avenue close by, you have Crystal Springs Road close by, you have San Bruno Park, you have Cherry Park, and both of these sites you guys picked are right in the middle of residential areas with no trees. I mean, San Bruno in that neighborhood, very few streets with no trees on it that would help with the stealthing, and both of these sites are going to stick out like sore thumbs. And we have none in this area. Are there any, do you know of any other residential ones that we can go drive by?
No.
In South City, Millbrae, Daly City, anywhere nearby?
We have sites in Atherton that are under construction and Burlingame.
And there's probably a lot of trees in Atherton, hiding them all. I mean, and also, and I thought that's really more of a comment, but my question is on the power sources on these. Some of the power sources on some of the sites have a lot larger power sources, but they do make some humming noises. And is there any noise in any of these power sites?
One of the equipment cabinets has a fan that only, I think the level is 50 dBs.
Okay. And getting back to my first comment, I guess it was started out to be a question. Was there any other sites nearby that if we want to improve the areas, any commercial sites that you could have maybe, instead of going on a public utility pole, you could have maybe paid rent somewhere?
Unfortunately not. The site works with the existing adjacent sites. If you have the alternate site analysis that we submitted, it shows the existing surrounding sites. So a lot of the I'm sorry, we're on the Niles project. I have an existing sites map that was submitted, showing the surrounding sites that we looked at, or the surrounding existing sites and how the site works with the existing network. So we don't want to be too close to existing sites that causes interference. We did look at, for this site, the water tank, Parkside Elementary, Parkside Intermediate, and then the church, St. Robert's.
So, excuse me, are we looking at this Exhibit 2? Is that what you're looking at?
That's the coverage map that also shows the existing
And
sites.
so the existing sites are the blue dots?
They're the black rectangular.
Black rectangular.
It's easier to see this one.
There we go.
I think they're actually shown as triangles. rather
Sorry,
than-
triangles,
than-
sorry, I
than
apologize.
rectangles.
The triangles.
Oh, these big black triangles, the big
Correct.
ones.
So for this, there's two existing adjacent sites. And then we have the proposed site north on Park.
So there was no large pole right outside the senior center here, on Crystal Springs Road that you could have used? Or nothing in the San Bruno Park, like where the ball field standards are?
I think the San Bruno Park is a little too far south.
Well, it's about there's probably a light standard less than 500 feet away from your blue dot there, the next blue dot that you were going to talk about next week, probably.
We actually looked, there are actually 3 proposed sites that we're investigating, so the 3 sites work together. So we are looking near that area of the park, so we do have a coverage need there.
I'm sorry, I'm just, to be honest, I can't buy these. I mean, I don't think I could be sold on these with looking the way they are. They're just taller telephone poles. I mean, the city would love to get the telephone poles underground, and now we're putting taller ones. No. I can hear you, but I don't think it's working. Mary, can you hear her on TV? Can you hear Pam?
Look down here. Thank you.
Okay, this is on now.
Okay. All right, thank you. So just a few words of caution for the commission. When you are looking at these applications, you need to be very cautious in denying an application for cell site where the applicant has demonstrated that there is a significant gap in coverage, which is what I heard the applicant say. And my understanding is that there is evidence that she has provided of that in your packets. So the applicant can only really be required to look at alternative sites if it's going to fill that same gap in coverage. And that's really the key legal question before you. My understanding is that they, having looked at the packet, that they have looked at some alternative sites that for various articulated reasons did not meet that need. If you need any further guidance, please let me know.
Would it be okay to ask the applicant to bring us studies of other sites, such as the ones I mentioned? I gave 3 specific sites I thought would be stealthier. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know if it would work as well, but I mean, are those legitimate questions?
Well, I'll tell you this, that although aesthetic considerations are one that is a factor that you can look at, I would not recommend making that the only factor that you're considering. So.
Okay. Then I would like to recommend, I mean, I personally would like, we'll open public comment first, I guess, before I make final recommendations. Thank you.
Yeah, we're still in planning commission discussion.
Through the chair. I have,
Commissioner Biassiatti?
according to city attorney's understanding, is my comments, I understand that I'm not talking about the engineering or the RF or any of that stuff, even the site locations. My problem with your project is the architectural appearance of that piece of equipment, and I'm having issues with that. The second question is that how can a company as big as yours and as experienced as yours have started a project like this without permits or approvals? I'd really like to know.
That was an oversight by PG&E. We have an agreement with PG&E, and unfortunately, they had an out-of-date work order with dates, and they started construction without our T-Mobile knowing. But as soon as we found out, we immediately stopped work.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Commissioner Mishra.
I actually had the same concern. I mean, I don't understand why work proceeded without having appropriate.
It was a
but-
miscommunication with PG&E and their construction manager.
And a second question I have, and the city attorney can tell me if I'm within bounds or not, but this 50 decibels, is that, where is that measured from? Is that on the ground level? Is that 5 feet away? I mean, this is a logarithmic scale, so I mean, 50 decibels from what point?
I don't have a specific, that was just the equipment specifications
Mhm.
for the equipment.
Is that somewhere in the package where I can find it?
No, it wasn't submitted.
Okay. Is there any way I can get that information through your engineer that's here today?
I unfortunately don't have that spec sheet. I can get it to you guys.
Okay, well, I kind of wanted to know that before we made a decision tonight. It's okay, thanks.
Yeah.
But we're definitely happy to, provide a noise study to meet any of the code requirements.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. We will now open the public hearing, and anyone wishing to comment on this project, please step to the microphone, state your name and your street name.
Good evening, Dave Thomas. I live at 1631 Parkview Drive, which is directly opposite the site you're not talking about tonight. I do have some concerns about how the project has moved forward. I think that you should take your time and look at this. This comment tonight, just heard tonight, was that there was a gap in their coverage area. And today, I prepared for a meeting with our homeowners association and went to the T-Mobile site and found that the signal levels that they're proposing or that they have in our area are the best quality in the neighborhood. And I have those in the car. And they were printed today off their website. That's for data and voice transmission. So I'm not sure why they need to enhance that. I'm not in favor of the stealth protection that's being suggested. I've asked for photographs of sites that are in place that we can look at, and I've been told that there are none. This is the first time they've ever developed a site that in this configuration. So I went to a website today that showed 657 photographs of cell sites. Not one of those cell sites of the 657 have this configuration. So I would agree with them that there's nothing out there that's going to tell us what this looks like. I can tell you that adding an extension on that pole and painting it is not going to make the pole go away. I don't think anybody's going to believe that painting the pole and the antenna is the same color is going to make it so you don't see it. That's all I have at this point in time. I did meet with our homeowners association tonight, and we will be following that up with meetings with the city and the staff to share our concerns as to how the staff report was presented to you as our representatives for the Planning Commission. And if you'd like, I'll go out to my vehicle and bring in the T-Mobile coverage plans for the areas in question.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
Mr. Thomas, can I ask you a question? Are you referring to this site that we're talking about here as 1736 Niles?
Yes.
But you said you live at
I live at
Parkview.
1631 Parkview, and one of the applications for a cell site that was withdrawn by T-Mobile is for 1630 Parkview. And as I was researching the area coverage for 1630 Parkview, this area coverage comes up and shows all of the Niles site. It shows actually from Genevan all the way over to Lomita, from the top of the county park all the way down below Cypress. And it shows the areas where their data coverage is the strongest and the weakest. And in our area that's shown in that zone, it's color-coded purple, which is the highest level of service. That's the highest level of coverage that you can expect in that area. For cellular communications, everything is bright green except we're right through the park and up through the county park. All of the other areas are a dark green or a lighter green, which means you have fair to good coverage or the best coverage. None of it in that entire area on their cell site is listed as poor coverage.
So would it be your position that this map that they submitted is incorrect?
I've never seen that map. I have a staff report that was emailed to me by the city staff. But quite honestly, not being in color, I couldn't tell you if I've seen that map or not. I can only tell you that the coverage of the map that I printed out today is different than that.
Thank you.
I'll acknowledge you for a moment. Our director, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, in order to not jeopardize future planning commission meetings, I would say we concentrate on this one application and not other applications that are similar. We continued the application on Parkview so that we could analyze it more, and so that the applicant could work with the neighborhood more. And I don't want to jeopardize your ability to have a discretionary review of that at a later time by discussing it now.
Thank you.
Through the chair,
Mr. Peterson?
I was talking about the application at 1736 Niles. Was
Okay.
I confusing you?
No, you were correct.
Thank you.
Let me think of where we are. The applicant, do you have a response?
So I do have T-Mobile's radio frequency engineer here who can address that issue. The website coverage information is not comparing the same information that we've provided in the application.
Okay.
So different levels of radio frequency. So I'm going to have Rogelio Legal come up and explain the differences and what the site indeed, the
Thank you.
proposed site shows.
Good evening. I'm Rogelio Legal. I'm the RF engineer for T-Mobile. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't looked at the website map, but but we have the maps that we gave you. Those are the ones we based our decisions upon as to where to put the sites and how to design them. So with regards to the website map, I could not answer that because I don't have the proper like comparison between the two maps, the maps that I have and the maps on the website.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Marshall?
So did you say you saw the maps on the website then?
No, I haven't. I
thought you said, I thought.
No, I
okay,
haven't
I thought
seen
you,
the maps on
okay.
the website.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Mishra?
Could you tell me what 50 decibels is? Like, what kind of noise is 50 decibels?
Actually, I'm not qualified to answer any questions with regards to noise level because I'm an RF engineer and.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Planning Director?
Through the chair.
Yes.
What we would do in terms of noise transmission and sound decibels is our building inspectors, when it is actually installed, would test it, and it would be from ground level. And 65 decibels is specified within our code as the ambient noise level. That's what you have to keep it below. So 50 decibels would obviously be below that, but our building inspectors would actually have something that would test that at the time of installation.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to
Commissioner Marshall?
ask the applicant one. On the on the Exhibit 1, you have the project sites, but then you have the three alternative ones that, in fact, I think you mentioned one was at Parkside, one was at St. Roberts, and one's the water tower.
Correct.
Why were those not chosen?
If you look on Exhibit 3, the Parkside Intermediate School would work, but that would require the building of a new pole structure.
That would, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of that. That would what?
Require the construction of a new pole,
So more expensive. Okay.
possibly.
Okay.
And then the Cunningham water tank site, if you look at Exhibit 3, only half of the coverage objective is met. The site is surrounded by trees, so the coverage gets reduced. And then the St. Roberts declined to enter into a lease agreement, so we're not able to locate there.
Okay, now, like I said, I'm no engineer, and I'm barely know how to turn my cell phone on. But do you guys use the same frequencies as your, I probably shouldn't say names, but as your competitors?
No, T-Mobile operates at a different...
T-Mobile is different than Verizon and AT&T?
Correct.
Okay, 'cause I was wondering why, I mean, there's no need for them to come into neighborhoods with these poles.
Different carriers have different coverage needs.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Just one point of clarification, just so everyone understands, because I was having a hard time following when I first looked at this, but in terms of the coverage maps, there's 3 different levels of coverage that they have to meet as an objective. The most widespread available coverage is actually on street, so if you're just walking around the street, and that's the whole gray portion of the map. The yellow portion of the map is if you're in your car, and that's the second standard, and I'm looking at Exhibit 2 right now. And the third is what they're trying to meet as part of this application, and that's when you're in your home, when you're in the school, when you're in any building, that's, as the federal law states, is that's the objective that they're trying to go to meet the same coverage that a landline would have by being inside the buildings. So those are the 3 different levels of coverage that they're showing on the map, and the green level is the one that the federal law says that we have to allow the cell phone sites to achieve. Okay.
For want of a microphone, I'm just going to speak from up here. So one other thing I did want to make the commission aware of are the legal requirements contained in the municipal code that expresses a preference for certain types of facilities. And expressed in our code is this, in terms of structure types, that the main preference is for, and again, this is a preference, not a requirement, but for building-mounted antennas, compatible with the design of the building, stealth design. The second type is when a building-mounted antenna is not possible. Distributed repeater antennas, which telephone poles are a type of that, are encouraged, although they're encouraged if it can be along the city's arterial and collector streets. That's the preference. And then the last type would be a monopole. So I did want to make clear that the type of facility that's being proposed is the not the least desired, but actually the second most expressed preference in our code. Although it is preferred not to be in residential areas, it is not prohibited from residential areas.
Thank you. I do have a question for you as well. Now, in San Bruno, we have made efforts in past times to do underground utilities. So what happens, and maybe this is a question for Aaron, but what happens if if that particular street is designated as an underground utility?
I'm not sure that
5
can be
years from now.
required for these facilities.
Yeah, let's say 5 years
5 years from now, you know, there are streets in our city that have become underground utilities versus having the poles in place, and there have been streets that have been designated as that over the years. So in the future, should something like that take place, and I know this is probably, you know.
You're probably going to need to see a change in the federal law, because the policy behind the federal and the state law is to encourage these facilities, to allow them to be able to make them provided to those who wish to use them. So that is the preference and clear policy that is expressed both in federal and state law. It's to make it available and to not create any obstacles to their provisioning.
Does the state law say to come to San Bruno and do it first?
Doesn't say to come to San Bruno and do it first, but it does say that you can't deny their request if it is to fill a significant gap in coverage. Now, that's up to the applicant to demonstrate that to you, but that's...
I mean, if I'm asking too many questions, tell me to stop.
No,
But
you,
I know
you can never ask too many questions. That's your job.
Yes, I do. But the fact that the website has a coverage map and their sales side of it showing the coverage, isn't that an argument to say that it's not needed for us? since
Maybe
we're
or
not engineers?
maybe or maybe not. It depends if it's an apples to oranges comparison. So what I was understanding the community development director to say is that, okay, the lowest level of coverage is being met, but not the highest level. And so the applicant has the right to get the highest level of coverage met. That's how I understood it. And the applicant could be the one to clarify whether his understanding and mine is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments?
I'd like to ask the applicant a question.
Okay, if you can please step forward again.
On Exhibit 2, the existing coverage map, do you have that
Yes.
handy? A point that would be more central to the least coverage would be more, how do you say, to the southeast of where the project site is, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be like on Crystal Springs Road?
Southeast along Crystal Spring Road, I believe is too close to the existing site to the east.
Well, I'm just going by the gray area. The gray area is weaker coverage than yellow area, right?
The sites, yeah, that's true. The sites have to work together, so they have to, the sites speak to each other. So they have to be positioned so that the radio frequency work together. And if the site is too close, it causes interference and overlap. So if we were more to the southeast.
Well, so then if you were directly south of the project site on Crystal Springs Road, wouldn't that be an acceptable location?
At this time, right now, for this area of San Bruno, we have 3 proposed sites. One site is on hold to do more alternate site analysis. So if we move this site further south, it would interfere with the proposed site on Parkview that's on hold right now.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, couldn't you move that site more south?
Yeah.
Through the chair.
I
I'd
mean,
like to-
through
through the chair.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking that I'm on the other side of the thing. This is really, I'd like to make a suggestion that we're trying to problem solve this at this level up here, and I'd like us to maybe have our community development director, he has some comments, and possibly get more information before we come to this place. And we're here to really trying to look at site maps and having someone who was the engineer that really isn't at the level of engineering at some of the questions that we have. So I believe that, if you can have some comments to this, and find at this point that even I'm calling myself through the chair.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, actually, you read our mind. That was the recommendation we were going to make. I could see that there's a lot of areas where the Planning Commission requires additional information in order to come to a conclusion for this application. So if you want to, I think we got a lot of the information, but if there's anything else that you would like to note, but what I would recommend at this point is for you to continue this application to a future Planning Commission meeting. And we'll come, if you want to, we've already noted a few things, but if there's anything else that you would like to add, and we'll come back with a specific list of information.
And also some comments were concerned aesthetically, some noise level. There's a couple of different areas. So if you can, I think you've really gotten the details in place, but it looks like the applicant is doing her best job at giving us the information, but it looks like there's more information behind the scenes that needs to be answered. And even the engineer, to his own admission, said that he doesn't have that level of information. So it just, I think, continuing and getting that detail of information makes complete sense. So I'd like to bring it back to the commission for a
And just
motion.
one more question to staff. Was a code enforcement case started on the starting of the poll, so we can make sure that nothing has has been stopped? Like
I don't know
any
the
other
answer offhand.
any
I
other
know that
contractor
I know
would.
that we sent up a building inspector to stop work on the project, so a stop work notice was issued. I don't know if there's actually a code enforcement case that was started, but I could check on that when I get back to
Okay.
the office.
And through the chair, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this item to the next
To a
meeting?
future planning
The
commission
future
meeting, because I
planning
want to make
commission.
sure we notice the neighborhood. And
We have to open public hearing for it, don't we? Yeah, let's open public, oh, no, we did. You have to close
Yeah,
public
it's been
hearing.
closed.
Has it been closed?
Yeah, we're back to planning
Okay,
discussion.
okay.
Yeah, I had to stop and think
I
about
know.
it for a moment.
Yeah, and through the chair, if I could detail a specific list right now as I hear it of the information that I've heard that you want to hear for the next hearing, and if you could add to it if there's anything else that
Okay.
you specifically want. It'll make for the most legally sound decision as we move forward. The first is that you want to see from an aesthetic standpoint if this has been done anywhere else, and would like photographs of that, as well as address locations that we could provide you in advance, or website address if there is photos that are posted online that show this.
Right.
So that's one that I got from an aesthetic standpoint. From a noise standpoint, we want to see how the noise objectives are going to be met and what the technical information is that led to their conclusions within the report. From alternative sites analysis, we'd like to see what other specific locations they looked at within the area, including the sites that were mentioned at the Planning Commission tonight, and why those would work or why not, or why those were not chosen as part of this application. Do we have anything that you noted?
And I think adding to.
And the fourth would be why is the website information different? Is the website marketing information that perhaps doesn't tell the full story for in-building coverage, but tells the street side information? And what's the differences between the two maps, and why is there differences between the two maps?
And through the chair, one more concern, Aaron. If on maintenance, how often there'll be maintenance, and what needs to be maintained? Is the fan, the electrical? Do they have to bring lift trucks out?
Okay.
And I think this is what part of what the list really goes to, which is having the applicant be able to explain to you very clearly what the significant gap in coverage is, how is that created, looking at both explaining the map that was provided to you, but that is difficult to understand, comparing that to the website information, explaining why those are two different things. That would be part of the discussion also on the alternative sites that they considered and why those were not sufficient to meet their needs.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Michaud?
One other question I have is, in our review, we always tell the applicants to speak to the neighbors next door and make sure they understand what the project is about. And I know that they've been noticed twice, but I don't know if they haven't gotten their mail or they haven't said anything because they don't understand what's going on. But I'm not going to speak to their level of commitment on this project, but I would like to know that they know that this is happening and what this really causes in terms of noise, in terms of, if maintenance is going to be done every 6 months, if their front door is going to be blocked. I mean, I would like for them to know what's going on. And I don't know if there's any significant steps we can take so that they understand what's going on. And
We could think of something creatively to see how we could actually outreach to the immediate neighbors.
Just the
in these
ones from the
locations.
front
Yeah,
and the
the ones
side.
that is in front of their homes.
basically in
Yeah.
front of the home is what I'm concerned about.
And-
Because I hate for have emails or phone calls to you to say what's going on in front of my property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about.
Commissioner Biassatti?
Yeah, through the chair. I just want to make it clear that, it's my understanding that there is a need for this site, and I'm not denying that we have a need. My concern is that it's like they've taken the cheapest, easiest route to facilitate that need, and I want to make sure that whatever we approve is going to be aesthetically appropriate for our city, especially going forward, since it will set a precedent, because we don't have anything like this in our city.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And Mr. Thomas has a question, and I'm going to grant him the opportunity to come and ask the question, and then be happy to take yours.
I would just have a comment. In your notification process, could you also notify not only the resident who's living in the home, but a property owner? Because that wasn't the case in my neighborhood, and that just came to light today. That some of the owners of the property are absentee owners, and their tenants received a notice possibly, but the owner should actually be noticed as well.
I'm certain there's probably a procedure in place, and if our community...
Through the chair, we actually send them to the property owners. There are in some circumstances, we send them to the residents. Whatever the property owner has listed as their address on their tax roll is the address we send it to, and we've always done that because it's required by law.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to address the maintenance issue. So the sites are pretty much low maintenance. They're only maintained on an emergency basis, so they're unmanned and typically don't require any ongoing maintenance unless, an emergency occurs. So there's not every 6 months maintenance. And then I wanted to request that the project be continued to the next available Planning Commission hearing.
That's what we were going to do.
Yes, thank you for that. That is the motion it's on. And also, Erin, I wanted to ask you a question, maybe a bit of education for us. A couple times it's come up in comparison to other competitor services. It's like, okay, can they get together and create this? I'm not recommending that that's the situation, but at least educating us how that process might work. And it doesn't need to be at a commission meeting or however it can be, but there are those unanswered questions, and for us to get on the same page, because of course this question has come up. Well, can they come together themselves and create this sort of unit that we're not having poles popping up everywhere? And there's a more that may not be possible.
We do have a preference, but they're not required to do that. They often. I've found that cell phone companies often try to do that when possible because it's cheaper for them to co-locate. But usually what happens is they have to be located a certain distance on the pole, whether it's 10 feet on the pole, and sooner or later they actually run out of room on that pole. And as there's more cell phone carriers right now, they're just running out of space on a lot of the poles. And as a city, we can't actually require co-location.
Yeah, I just think it wasn't so much requirements as much as just educating us in that process, how that process works.
Absolutely, we could do something.
It's useful every now and then, and when I'm hearing statistics as 9% of households are no longer having landline phones, so there's just new information that's taking place, and I think just having that opportunity would be useful. Thank you. All right.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
Has we closed the public hearing?
We have. I'm a bit confused in the process, but we officially actually have.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll make
All right,
that
there's a motion.
that we move continue this item to future planning commission as soon as it works between the staff and the applicant.
Second.
And sorry, one other addition, if I could, through the chair, is that you also continue it with the specific list that we outlined further in the meeting.
With your list of outlines, yes.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and second to continue this into a date that's compatible with the applicant and with staff, with the additions of the list. And that's for use permit 09-025. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.